Hi, welcome back to Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. And today I want to talk about grading. And there's been a lot of chatter online about PSA lately. It has to do with their 3% upcharge that's based on your card's value or secondary market value. And to me, I just don't believe that a grading company can stay neutral by applying these fees to cards that you want to get graded. And the reason why is because there's laws when it comes to home appraisals that they can't sit there and do that type of stuff, all right? And I compared card grading to home appraising. In fact, I wish that we could just call card grading card appraising because then it puts, the person sending in their card to be graded or appraised, in a different outlook for what's happening. So anyway, the way that home appraisers work is the way that, appraising should work. You have to stay neutral, like it says here. Home appraisers are reimbursed through a flat fee paid by the home buyer or borrower. This payment is typically collected upfront by the lender or an appraisal management company before the property inspection happens, and it is generally non-refundable once the appraiser begins their work. Okay, so think about that. All right, there's rules in effect so that we can get a clean appraisal that's not tainted. How the payment flow works, source of funds, the buyer in a purchase or the homeowner in a refinance ultimately pays the bill. Collection lenders or AMCs collect the fees from the borrower via credit card or closing funds, acting as the middleman to safeguard appraiser independence. After completing the valuation report, the appraiser receives their pre-negotiated fee directly from the lender or AMC. Rules and restrictions on fees. And this is what we really need when it comes to card grading. Because right now it's the Wild West and PSA is running with it like it is the Wild West. So like it says here, flat fees only. Appraisers are reimbursed a fixed customary amount for their time, travel, and report writing. Yes, to have a legitimate appraisal, you really need these flat fees. It says here, no value-based pricing. By law, an appraiser's reimbursement cannot be tied to the final appraised value of the home or whether the loan closes successfully, ensuring total neutrality. And that's what I'm trying to let people know about card grading, is you do not have total neutrality when it comes to card grading. You're sending in your card to someone who is holding it hostage, who almost takes it like it's their property. And you have to pay them a commission, a big commission, by the way, if it's a, fairly valuable card, just to get your card back. Why do they deserve such a big commission? Oh, because there are no laws in effect. And they've had to do this for homes because if you start, making this about commissions instead of flat fees, then we see what happens to home appraisals, every home appraiser would be going to each home and just skyrocketing the value. It's like, give me my 3%, it's like you got a 1-bedroom home. It's worth all of a sudden $2 million. Why? Well, guess what? The home appraiser wants his cut, 3%. You see what I'm saying? And so that takes me to X and this big tug of war. It's almost a cult of, people who believe you have to pay a 3% upcharge, that's based on value, over people who believe that, this should be affordably priced for doing what they're doing. Because really, an appraiser is supposed to be policing, the sports card or TCG environment to an extent. And they're not really doing that. They're almost acting like they own the card. You know what I mean? I mean, PSA is giving these fees out like they own the card. And really all they're doing is throwing a sticker on there, slapping some plastic on there. They're not even really doing the hard work like, say, a home appraiser would do, like, digging through or crawling through a crawl space, going up on a roof, If you've ever watched home appraisers do their jobs, it can be dangerous. I've watched them. I'm just like, boy, these guys are kind of doing some weird things. Because I used to be a realtor. And to me, it makes sense that we need to have laws that you can only put flat rates on card grading so that we can end the Wild West and, PSA's show of greed. So, like it says, this comes from Mega Card Investor. This was posted on July 30th. And I'm fairly positive that, this appraisal value on the card and, this 3% upcharge came from the National. I'm not positive, but just by the way people are talking in this post, I believe that's how this worked out, okay? So right here, this it's a fairly recent card appraisal, was on July 30th, 2026. And like it says here, service level, show regular premium. So why do they need all this money? Because they're greedy and they're just using their name more or less to get this money. So they're asking this individual for $17,984 on a 1997 Metal Universe 81 Kobe Bryant Precious Metal Gems card, okay? To me, this should just be a flat rate, like maybe $500, $400, $300, okay? However they want to do it. Why? So that the grading company stays neutral. Remember, this big fee, they're not really going to stay neutral. And here's the thing is they already gave a grade on this as a 5. Now, when you look at this card, this is the Death Star card. It's the, this is the red parallel. This card has bad corners, bad edges. It's not in very good condition at all. And I can understand why they want to get it graded, authenticated for what it is. And maybe they even want to keep the card. So why does PSA believe that they're entitled to this big, massive sum of money, based on other secondary market sales? Well, I've said it before. There's no laws. This is the Wild West, and PSA is going along with it as the Wild West. Whereas in other things, laws have been put into effect, yes. And that's hard to swallow after a while. It's just like, so what's going on here? Oh, that's because your politicians in Washington, D.C. aren't doing their jobs. And this is what you get. And maybe they are doing their jobs. Maybe PSA has lobbyists going into these Washington, D.C. senators and congressmen office. I don't know. But let's see what people are saying. If it costs that much to grade the card, how much is the card worth after grading? It's worth around $600,000 in PSA 5, okay? You'd be better off, I don't know, working with homes, to be honest. Home appraisers, just put that out there. I'm confused. I thought PSA charged based on the card's value primarily for insurance purposes. If the Kobe were damaged or lost in the mail, they need enough coverage to replace it. But if it's graded on site and never touches a mailbox, what justifies charging so much more? That's just it. They are just being scumbags, in my opinion. They're just using their big name, and more than likely not really doing much work. That's just it. Just what? Throw the card in a slab, throw a sticker on it? Oh, that's tough work, guys. This is where it will all fall apart. PSA is incentivized to grade your card higher with this model, and it will be looked back on as one of the top contributors to the TCG and sports card bubble. Yes. And that's because there's no neutrality here, They would be looking at that card differently if they didn't have that 3% upcharge on the secondary market value. And I keep pointing out, and that's why you really need laws put into effect for card grading. Here's one. You should be grading a $600,000 card if you can't afford the 3% fee. PSA has employees they have to pay, insurance, property costs, etc. Welcome to the real world where services cost money. Give me a break. I guarantee I've seen home appraisers work a lot harder than any of these card graders. I mean, think about it. I mean, home appraisers are, going into crawl spaces, climbing roofs, doing dangerous stuff. I mean, but there's laws into effect. There's just no laws in effect in the world of sports cards. So you see the corporations, really gaming the system like PSA. You see other, people gaming the system. What happens when laws are put into effect, or if laws are put into effect? Well, it works out a lot better for the consumer. I'll put that much. Because, like I said before, it feels like PSA is taking ownership of these cards with the prices that they're trying to charge people, especially on, higher valued cards. Like it says here, it should cost no more than $300 for even the most valuable cards to be graded. Are they giving any of that additional money to the actual worker? Doubt that, yeah. And that's really where this card grading game lacks neutrality. It's all based on money, at least when it comes to the PSA monopoly. You have PSA, Beckett, SGC. And they're going to likely give you a better grade. You cough up all that money, but you're really not getting neutral. You're not getting neutrality. And that's the issue I have with these big, upcharges is I wish we could get laws put into effect so that we can get card grading back on a neutral plane. Because as long as you have these big, massive prices for highly valuable cards, you're never going to get that, Graded at the show makes that a ridiculous number. It's not being shipped, so why are you paying insurance costs to hand it back to them? Highway robbery. Yes, it is. But then you have people who are fighting back, who are sticking up for this type of behavior. And it just is really puzzling that you have so many people out there who are always supporting tyranny, tyrants, like it says here, PSA is running a business. If their services add that much value to the card, it feels like they are pricing it fairly. You can choose not to grade the card. You can choose a different service. Yeah, well, good luck with TAG. Good luck with CGC. We all know what needs to be done. And then we have this post. The PSA 5 graded at an additional $300,000 in value to the card compared to a PSA authentic example. He went over that post before. Then add in that no one is touching a raw copy with a 10-foot pole. Yes, it stings, but the grading fee is justified. Why is it justified? And that's just it, is you have so many people screaming out that this is justified. This is justified. Well, it's not justified when it comes to home appraisals. They have put laws into effect. Why do you think they did that for home buyers over card buyers? Because everyone needs a home. And we just really need grading neutrality. And we don't have that. And you will never have that with the way that they are charging customers. And so back to, looking at Washington, D.C. politicians. Are they working for PSA over the consumer? They probably are, if a lobbyist has even gone to any of these guys. And that's just it. When you get into sports cards, you're in a market that lacks laws that have been put in other markets. So anyway, I'd like to thank my subscribers. You're the only reason I do this. I'm still not monetized, so if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd really help out my channel. And if you're a viewer and you haven't subscribed, if you could just hit the subscription button, it would really help me out. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.